Do you think such religious gatherings should be organized by the state? वहाँ मरे, यहाँ मरे, रात को स्टेशन पे, etc., etc. What could be different?
Ma'am, I think I will give more importance to court because beliefs and practices may not be the best criteria that we can use to come to the most just conclusion.
You're a lawyer who has to go and appeal against the judgment of the Supreme Court or review or whatever in the Article 370 ruling. So any review you will file will be obviously on legal grounds. So can you name 2 legal grounds that you would take on that?
We keep talking about women's empowerment. Do you think women should be empowered?
As a lawyer, what is your understanding of the Supreme Court's judgment off and on to to reach a verdict and keep it reserved?
I mean, we just decided not to discuss who does what because you rubbish them all.
I think, ma'am, transparency is the sunlight of everything, and if there is transparency in our systems, it would lead to better effects, cascading consequences for everything.
I started my full-fledged preparation after I joined the Ultimate Assessment Program at Civilsdaily.
There is a 12-month strategy which I have done on Civilsdaily platform only.
I reached out to the Civilsdaily team.
Civilsdaily. Current affairs में Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. Civilsdaily. To Civilsdaily.
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 A mentorship program of Civilsdaily, and that did help me a lot.
May I come in, ma'am?
Come Aditya, come please.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Come Aditya, please sit down.
Thank you, ma'am.
So you have 2 months to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Moving in early. Are you working somewhere?
No, ma'am. I'm currently only preparing for the civil services.
Okay. And have you worked anywhere?
I've interned during law school, but I chose
I saw
not
you interned with Justice Chandrachud.
Yes, ma'am. But I chose not to work after law school because, in my opinion, preparing for the exam is a full-time job in itself.
Okay. Then why did you take law?
Ma'am, when I was in 12th standard, I realized that my true calling lay in the legal fraternity. And I was very fortunate to have given the CLAT exam, and I got a good law school as well. So I chose to pursue law because it resonated with the legal mind inside me.
Mm-hmm. And now what happened?
Ma'am, when I was in my 4th year of law school, during the pandemic, I was at home going to online lectures online. So what I realized was that there were push and pull factors that pushed me away from law and pulled me towards the civil services. So the push factor was that I was not very happy working for law firms because the constant refrain in law firms was about billables, that we had to bill clients more and get more money. Big law firms. And it did not attract me as a career profession because it was only about billables and clients. And if I may also
tomorrow
add,
you may have the calling of the corporate sector also. You may find that this is not really what you wanted in life, huh? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So your subject was also law, optional was also law?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So now, very often it is said that it is this era now is seeing the death of multilateralism. Do you agree with that?
I think it would be wrong to say that it is the death of multilateralism. I think, yes, that somehow the multilateral systems have become weaker and they are not as effective as they used to be. But we cannot completely discount them because even today the UN system is working fairly well despite some violations.
One example in the last 1 year when it's worked very well.
Ma'am, if I may quote the example of Afghanistan, there was a more or less complete consensus in the UN Security Council and the UNGA that the territory of Afghanistan should not be used to finance or sponsor terrorism. So I think in Afghanistan it worked really well.
It's very easy to do because none of the big five's interests were involved there as such, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But now if I give examples, I mean, and multilateralism, which bodies or special arms of the UN have Court of Justice? People are thumbing their nose at it, right? We'll come to that just now. The Security Council, what's happening? Then your trade, tariffs, everything. Then also territorial integrity, Greenland, Canada, Mexico. Mr. Trump is claiming everything. And WHO is walking out climate talks. WTO is ineffective. So really, it's more regional blocks and national, isn't it? Don't you agree that that's the way things are going now?
Yes, I think regional blocks, minilaterals have become more important now. But it would be premature to completely write out the multilateral system because
let's not get pedantic about it. It is a spirit that we have to see. Okay. Now this International Court of Justice. Tell me what exactly was the ruling that this court has given regarding this whole thing of Gaza and Mr. Netanyahu. What are the developments on that? Very quickly.
So, ma'am, a case was filed by South Africa and some other nations at the ICJ under the Genocide Convention. And in the interim ruling that came from the ICJ, there were essentially 3 points. One, it asked Israel to completely halt its genocide of the population.
I don't think it
in
said
Gaza.
halt. It said prevent.
It said that you can't.
Fell short of saying that it was doing it. It said prevent, if I'm
Yes.
correct. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. It said prevent.
It's a different nuance.
Yes, it did not give a categorical ruling. It was an interim order.
Yeah, but it did not say halt. Halt means you're already doing it. Prevent means don't do it.
Essentially, ma'am. Yes.
Yes.
That was number one. Second was it asked that any humanitarian access should be allowed to be entered into Gaza. For instance, any civilian ambulances. That's number two. And number three, it stopped short of ordering a halt in cessation of hostilities. So that was.
And then what happened?
Crux.
Was it
I think-
honored?
No, ma'am. I think Israel
So
completely.
multilateralism, all right. And then they went further against Israel, against Mr. Netanyahu. What happened on that one?
Ma'am, I think I can't recall if they had a personal order against Mr. Netanyahu. I think that was the ICC where they had an arrest warrant drawn up for Mr. Netanyahu.
Correct. Yes.
So they had an arrest warrant, but it can't be honored because one, he's a state sovereign, and second, Israel is not a state party to the Rome Statute.
So what was the US's reaction to this one?
Ma'am, the US, I don't think, agreed to carry out the order, and the US also is not part of the ICC.
Masterly understatement. Okay. Now, you're a lawyer who has to go and appeal against the judgment of the Supreme Court or review or whatever in the Article 370 ruling. So, any review you will file will be obviously on legal grounds. So, can you name 2 legal grounds that you would take on that?
I think for a minute.
Yes, of course. Judgment is December 23, so.
Yes, ma'am. I think one could be under Article 137 of the Constitution, we can go for a review jurisdiction, and we can say that some aspects of the petitioner's arguments were not considered by the court, and they should be. So that can be one
Let's
ground.
not take a technical thing. Let's take a substantive merit issue. There are 2 merit issues.
And one could be that they did not answer the question whether Parliament has the power to degrade a state from statehood to a union territory status. So that could be one of them. And second could be that it stopped short of ordering that the order by the Parliament was illegal. It said that the order under Article 367 was illegal, but it did not strike it down. It essentially said that Article 370 was temporary, and they did not need a ruling from the Constituent Assembly of J&K.
Okay, very good. So now we have President's rule in Manipur. And what provision has been used?
Article 356 of the Constitution.
And what is the end limit in that?
The first limit is 2 months. It has to be approved by Parliament within 2 months, both houses. And then it continues for 6 months, up to a maximum of 1 year. Beyond 1 year, there have to be 2 conditions met. One, national emergency has to be imposed in some part of the country. And second, the Election Commission has to certify that it is not possible to hold election at this
What is
point.
the total limit?
The total limit is 3 years, maximum.
Very good. And when Mrs. Gandhi declared emergency, she used the same clause?
She used Article 352, national emergency.
Very good, very good. My last question to you. There are various indices, the hunger index, corruption index, transparency index. Have you any idea where India's ranking is on these indices, global ranking?
I have some idea, but I would not be able
Then
to
don't
give you
guess,
a
don't guess.
exact rank.
Which do you consider the most important index of these 3?
The corruption, the hunger index, and the number 3 one was?
Transparency.
Ma'am, if I may say so, with all humility, I don't think any 3 of them is important because the indexes themselves are very flawed, and India has repeatedly raised concerns about their efficacy.
Let's leave that technical discussion out. The substantive issue, which of the 3 do you think is most important?
I think I would go for the corruption issue, Transparency International.
More than hunger? No, transparency and corruption are different.
Transparency International releases the corruption index.
We just decided not to discuss who does what because you rubbish them all. I'm asking you, of the 3, which do you consider the most important issue? That is the heart of the matter.
I think I would go for transparency.
Why?
I think, transparency is the sunlight of everything. And if there is transparency in our systems, it would lead to better effects, cascading consequences for everything. So it would have good... And if there's transparency in our system, if the systems are working well, everybody's working as the ways they're supposed to do, I think the hunger issue would be solved to a large extent. So I think the underlying issue is transparency in our systems.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Aditya,
Yes, sir.
you interned with Justice Chandrachud.
Yes, sir.
Now, forget for the moment your personal relationship with him, because as an intern, you must have known him very closely and may have had a relationship with him. But as someone who's as a lawyer, how do you rate Justice Chandrachud's tenure as Chief Justice? Two things that you like about his tenure and two that you do not like.
So the things I liked about him were that he was a very open judge and he allowed every criticism to roll off his back. So I think the institution that he was heading, he was always for transparency. So leaving aside the judgments and the erudition that the honorable judge held, I think the way he conducted himself as a judge of the Supreme Court for 9 years was very eventful, very important. That was number one. Number two, his erudition, his judgments, the role he's played for expanding civil liberties has been very seminal. So those are two things I really
Could you
appreciated.
cite some judgments of his as Chief Justice in your view, which have expanded the area of civil liberty?
So one judgment was released recently. It was the case of Sukanya Shantha versus Union of India, where the court essentially outlawed the discrimination of caste in prisons. So in prison manuals, even today, the manuals say that, let's say, the latrines will be cleaned by persons, prisoners, whose caste is habituated to this occupation. So he held all of them unconstitutional under Article 17, and he ordered all states to essentially remake all prison manuals to make sure that this discrimination is not perpetuated. That was number one. And number two, sir, I think it was not when he was Chief Justice, it was when he was a judge of the Supreme Court, which was the Puttaswamy case, where he held that privacy is a fundamental right under Article 21. So those two were very seminal.
And two of the things that you did not like.
I think he could have been more prompt in terms of constituting benches. For instance, some cases are still pending, which I believe should have been given more importance. That was number one. And number two, there were certain controversies that could have been avoided. So I think these were two that I think could have perhaps been done better or in a more appropriate manner.
As a lawyer, what is your understanding of the Supreme Court's judgment off and on to to reach a verdict and keep it reserved? Why does the Supreme Court, in your view as a lawyer, do it?
So, in my opinion, after the arguments are done, the court reserves its order, and I think it delivers them maybe a few days or a few weeks later. I think it's a good exercise because it allows judges to circumspect, introspect, go through all arguments once again, dispassionately, and come to the most logical and legal conclusion that is in line with the Constitution. So I think it's a good thing that they do.
So why is it done selectively? Why is what you're saying should hold true of all cases, that the judges should conduct the hearings and consult among themselves and reach whatever understandings they need to, and then not deliver a judgment? But that's not what is done. What is done normally is that a verdict is delivered. In some cases, verdict is not delivered, and it's kept reserved. Why is that?
So maybe some cases are more complicated. For instance, a bail hearing that comes via appeal is more or less straightforward when there is no heinous crime having been committed. Some cases involving interpretation of any statute or the Constitution require more time. So that's perhaps why they choose to take some more time to deliver a judgment, because it allows them more time to deliver the best possible judgment that they can, given the case and circumstances of the case.
Has this been the established practice of our Supreme Court to withhold judgment?
But I'm not aware of this.
Okay. Let's talk about Syria. So what has happened in Syria recently, and where do things stand now?
So the government headed by President Bashar has been essentially removed by the people, and a new interim government has been formed that is headed by the HTS. And as things stand now, I think I read in the newspapers a few days ago that European countries are scrambling to establish ties with them, with the new government, to ensure that Syria does not become a new haven for terrorism or any other unlawful activities.
What is the current situation on internal stability in Syria? What is the problem? Is there a problem, or is the government stable and consolidated?
So I think the government is not homogeneous. There are different stakeholders in the government who may have different interests and different views. That's number one. Number two, Israel's economy is not doing well, so they have to work in that respect. And number three is that the government itself, I think, is not stable as of now. Syria as a large state, still I think many persons in the military...
So large parts of the country are not under the government's control.
Yes, sir. So even some parts of the military might not be amenable to the new government, and they might still hold loyalty for the previous president. So there are several factors at play here, as far as I'm aware, sir.
No, of course. Whatever we say, we only speak to the extent of our awareness. Okay. Ukraine. What has happened recently in peacemaking efforts over Ukraine?
So President Trump has recently disclosed that he had a phone call with the Russian president, Mr. Putin, and they've discussed the possibility of meeting in Saudi Arabia for peace talks. This has been completely rejected by European capitals as well as Ukraine, who too demand a seat at the table to ensure that the peace in Ukraine is both sustainable, durable, and
Americans have
just.
given some major indications of the kind of peace they are working for. So some main items, main areas that they have sort of spoken on.
So the US Defense Secretary has mentioned that Ukraine should not, he's mentioned two things. One, Ukraine should abandon the idea of joining NATO. That's number one. And number two, he's mentioned that Ukraine should also abandon the possibility of regaining all lost territories since 2014. So perhaps a compromise on territorial integrity is what the US may be looking for to come to a more prompt peace.
Okay. That's very good. Tell me, do you admire the work that our External Affairs Minister is doing?
Yes, I'm a big admirer.
Why are you? And so you're saying you're a big admirer of the External Affairs Minister. He has a large number of. Why do you admire him? What is it about him that you admire the most?
So there are several things. One is the expertise he brings to the table. Having worked in the Foreign Ministry and the Foreign Service for almost 3-4 decades, he knows the ministry inside out, and he's an accomplished diplomat as well. So the expertise he brings as a minister, I think, is unparalleled. And I think there's only one precedent to this. I think Mr. Natwar Singh also was a Foreign Service officer who had become the MEA, the EM. I'm sorry for that. That's number one. Number two, I think the way he conducts himself and the way he's able to deliver results in foreign policy is greatly appreciated. And number three, as if I may call myself a layman, which I am, I think he also explains things of foreign policy really well. So his public outreach and engagement with universities and colleges and students is also something I really admire.
Thank you, Adit.
Thank you, sir.
Suppose if there is a debate, beliefs versus practice versus court, what would you say?
Ma'am, beliefs versus
practices versus court. Law.
I mean, I think for a second, please.
Because whenever there's like Sabarmala case, like, so you have these sometimes, certain practices or certain beliefs. Like, for example, a police officer killing a rape victim, culprit or, that thing openly. So then there are a lot of, debate surrounding that, it should be punished and things like that. So keeping all that in mind, what do you have to say?
Ma'am, I think I will give more importance to court because beliefs and practices may not be the best criteria that we can use to come to the most just conclusion. For instance, the Sabarimala case, I don't think the practice that was being held there, not allowing menstruating women to enter the temple,
So
was
you can
right.
question the old age practices and beliefs. You think the court has right to question?
Ma'am, I think the constitution is supreme. And if there's any practice that is going against constitutional morality, we can perhaps look at it again. I don't think it is right for us to keep following the practices only because we've been following them for a long time. As a new democracy, as a logical nation that runs by rationality and the laws, I think we should give more importance to the empowerment of all persons, including women and marginalized sections.
Okay. As a hobby, you've written that you like listening to songs of Kishore Kumar. 3 songs, very quickly. 3 songs which you like the most.
Ma'am, my favorite song is a song called Kuch To Log Kahenge. It has a lot of value in my life. I think it's also a very good universal truth. Some people will always criticize what you are doing. That's number one. Number two is Aane Wala Pal Jaane Wala Hai. It speaks of the transience of time. That's number two. And number three is a romantic song called O Mere Dil Ke Chain.
Okay. When you listen to a song, what is that? What do you think that you like? The lyrics, the music, or the singer?
All three are unparalleled, but for me personally, the lyrics are very well written. So lyricists like Anand Bakshi Saab have done a phenomenal job. Kuch to log kahenge. I mean, the concise way of conveying this and the universal truth it holds is a great thing. So I really admire that.
So you lived almost like you were born and brought up in Delhi.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
know, people who are not in Delhi, they say that Delhi is very highly, weather-wise, it's very tough, very polluted city, crowded city, too much of traffic. Still, year after year, we see that a lot of people come to Delhi. Why?
And there are several reasons for this. Delhi is the capital and the hub of economic activity. So persons coming from perhaps rural areas think that they will find better employment in Delhi. So economically, it's a magnet for people coming in. Second, it is also the hub of political activity. Everything is happening here. So
You think one should take certain steps to stop because Delhi is becoming overcrowded?
Ma'am, respectfully, if I may say so, I don't think stopping migration to Delhi is a solution. What we need to do is make Delhi a more sustainable and a better urban city. So we need more investments in infrastructure to ensure that Delhi is open to all persons, because constitutionally everybody has a right to come to Delhi. But what we need is a better life with dignity in Delhi. So we need better urbanization.
Okay,
That should be
we
the
keep
solution.
talking about women's empowerment. Do you think women should be empowered?
Absolutely, ma'am.
Why?
There are several arguments for this. The most logical one is that there is no distinction between man and woman, and we cannot hope to become a better country, a more just country, when 50% of our population is not being given the equal rights to education or health. So that's number one. Number two is, even constitutionally, there's no distinction between man and woman. Article 14 is very clear. So there are
There's no difference
several.
between man and women?
Ma'am, biologically there may be a distinction, but in terms of employment, health benefits, constitutionally there's no distinction that we make by denying rights to women or denying rights of anything to women. So in my opinion, that the answer is a categorical yes. We need to empower women.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So, Aditya,
Yes,
what did you think of the interaction with us?
ma'am, I think it was really good. The questions were very diverse. I can't speak to my answers, but I think the interaction was very, very diverse in terms of how questions were asked.
You came out being very well, doing very, very well. Though I do wish you'd speak up a little more.
Okay.
Speak up a little more. Think you're in court. They speak with such passion and drama and everything. Don't do all that, but just speak up and have a conversation. Otherwise, I really cannot think of any further feedback. A couple of things I do want to say, that do prepare yourself for questions like reform of the judiciary. I would be curious to know, what is your solution to this collegium business? What do you think is the best way out?
Ma'am, in my humble opinion, the future is the NJAC. We need to bring the NJAC.
In what format?
The concerns raised by Supreme Court in the NJAC case were,
Whose dominance?
ma'am, I think we need judicial primacy, but not judicial exclusivity. So the
Correct,
CJI
correct,
should have a
correct,
casting vote.
Correct,
but I think
correct.
the government also has a legitimate stake in deciding who becomes a judge.
Yeah.
So one
Okay.
law minister in the NJAC, I think, is a reasonable compromise to make there.
Good. And judicial activism, overreach. I would suggest that also codification of contempt should be done. It's used as an instrument of terror. So in case such a question comes, that would go down well with people who have felt that and experienced it. Otherwise, in my questions, the only one, the multilateralism, where you jumped to I don't agree wala, I thought that's a little premature. It is always good if you are asked an opinion and you have the leeway to give pros and cons and then come to an opinion. Because otherwise, then you climb down finally, isn't it? Otherwise, you are outstanding. And I hope you make it. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other feedback that I can work on, perhaps demeanor or any
Perfect.
answer that was wrong?
That is, I'll request my fellow panelists also. Also, you need to have, we didn't ask so much of range. I played to your strength and looked at the constitution and law, etc. And my colleague did the same, but brought a little bit of foreign policy, and she also brought your DAF. So, but you could get situational questions. See, when a candidate is good, then the difficulty level goes up. So, situational questions which you may not have experience for, so it's a good idea to prepare them.
Yes, ma'am.
Like if you were district magistrate and Mahakumbh or something, do you think such religious gatherings should be organized by the state? Wahan mare, yahan mare, raat ko station pe, etc. What could be different? Law and order, some program of the government you're delivering, or drought,
Disaster management.
elections,
anything.
it could be anything. So situations I would suggest you should prepare. Use of technology. You're a lawyer, so they will say that how can you put your talents to best use, which is not a very difficult thing because you are going to be quasi-judicial authority in so many cases. So that is very good, and you should know all the laws that you will be using for governance as an IS officer, or as a police officer, or as a foreign service officer. So international law, all that stuff, covenants, treaties, etc. Incidentally, in this Yarlung Sangpo issue, is there any legal framework within which India can work?
I think there's an agreement with China of for sharing hydrological data.
There's an MOU actually.
There's an
There's a
MOU.
general MOU
Yes,
and a specific MOU on Brahmaputra which has lapsed. So have your legal bearings correct. Otherwise, you're outstanding.
I'll work
Rajiv?
on it, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Rajiv?
Aditi, you're very, very good. You're a very strong candidate. So I'm very happy with the interaction that we had with you. Speak loudly. Make sure that you shave on the day of interview, unless you plan to grow a beard, in which case grow it well in time, right? So you can have a beard or you can be clean shaven.
I'll be
But
clean
don't-
shaven, sir.
But don't wear a stubble.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so that's what I'm saying. I liked your answers on Justice Chandrachud. Again, you gave very balanced answers. Excellent. I liked your answers about our external affairs minister. He's on that he's a great communicator. That he is doing a great job of explaining foreign policy to people, which is not something that has always been done very well. So I'm very happy with your performance. In foreign policy, sort of there is Mr. Trump's daily pronouncements that you need to keep track of, what they mean for us particularly. There's a whole sort of breakdown in the international system of norms and trade, in UN, etc. What that means.
Yes,
So
sir.
keep track of those things. As far as India is concerned, India's relations with neighbors is something you have to sort of, all our South Asia, our neighborhood, China, Pakistan, situation on the border, our defense preparedness. Those are things that you need to have crisp talking points on. But you will do very well.
Thank you, sir. I'll work on it, sir.
Very good. You might just get some tricky thing on, negative to your profession or negative to the judiciary. Don't fall for the bait. Take both sides. Okay.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're outstanding. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Hope to see you there. What's your first choice of state?
Ma'am, my first choice is Rajasthan. I have different choices. I have chosen Rajasthan as number 1 for IAS, but for IPS, my number 1 preference is Agmut.
Is Agmut. Why?
Yes, the reason is there are very few insider vacancies in Agmut. So for IAS candidates.
Okay.
So I chose.
You can be frank there.
That might invite a question.
That's what I'm saying. Be frank. Like you're telling us, don't give some very high, noble thing. Just be frank. It's very good to be frank. And it's a perfect legitimate reason.
There are very few vacancies, like only 1 or 2 for insiders in Agmut for IAS officers. So I figured, why should I want to
Fair enough.
skip a zone?
Fair enough. What's your home state?
Delhi.
All the best.